You're watching a Hit TV, empowering you.
Yes, thank you very much. Startup Talk indeed. It is yet another Tuesday, 5 p.m. and like we always say, when that time comes, you just have to know that it is Startup Talk time. It's time to talk startup, business and everything that could actually be important to anyone trying to start his or her own business. Now, talking about business, if there is anything that is bothering Ugandans like no one's business these days, is President Museveni's statement about muogo. Did you miss that? This is actually what he said.
Because these other issues, there is war in Ukraine and Russia, there will be no bread. If there's no bread, eat muhogo. Muhogo is here. What is the problem? You know, Africans really confuse themselves. You are crying that there is no wheat. I don't eat bread myself. If there's no bread, eat muhogo. Muhogo is here.
Well, you may use that information the way you want. We have seen several people post on social media when you meet the border bees, that's the talk. On street, everyone else is talking about cassava versus bread. What if I told you that there is actually more to that? Now, while you are thinking you may not actually want to consider cassava for bread, in Nyankore we have a saying. No, it's not a saying. I think it is a slang. I don't know. But there's a way people tend to say, no ija kunywa nkombazi. Whether you want or not, that is directly translated to like whether you want or not. Just like you're forced to take medicine is how you actually going to accept me. Now, it's the same thing with cassava. And tonight, what we are talking about is actually more with cassava. Cassava is here to stay, and that saying or whatever statement that it is in Nyankore is actually coming true tonight. We have a guest that is a young scientist that thinks he can actually extract cassava starch and help in pharmaceutical production. We are talking about production of tablets and all that. I can't risk going into such language. Alex, you're welcome on the show. You could say hi to the viewer and we should be able to roll tonight.
Thank you, Ndugu Sankara, for hosting me.
Yes.
Good evening, viewers. It's a pleasure for me to make my first appearance on this great TV. Thank you.
Okay. Very, very statement. One of the things I have to warn you about, the gentleman is actually articulate, if you didn't know. Let's have this break. When we come back, we should be able to roll in tonight's focus. And trust me, it's going to be interesting. Yes, thank you very much. We cannot thank you enough. That's why I always thank you, I think 1,000 times in the show, because I believe if you're not watching us, then we have no reason to actually create this content. Alex, let's start it off. Maybe to get comfortable, I first interacted with you, I don't know, 2017 or 2016?
2016.
2016 is when you joined Mbarara University of Science and Technology.
Sure.
And you are leading the freshmen. Is that so? You became the chief fresher of MUST.
Yeah, it's
Was
very
that the
true.
same year?
I became a chief fresher of MUST
Yes.
on an event actually at the MC, and by then he had joined student leadership.
Yes. I was trying to build up something, and later, of course, in the Katongole regime, you come bounce as Constitution Affairs. That is so, right?
And for clarity, I was
Yes.
the social affairs minister.
Social affairs.
I made an attempt to become a speaker then, and
Yes.
I think I was not successful.
Yes.
Maybe because you didn't give me a hand.
No. But you see why I'm linking you to Constitution Affairs is that you really, in the house, you are vibrant in challenging people, bringing them back to the Constitution and making sure we move. I think you are well suited for the speakership. But yes, God always has, his plans. And yes, you served in that capacity. What came later, of course, we graduated and left the university. 2021, I think after a few years, I heard that you were in the news, winning an award by the President, Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, awarding you in the Science Innovations Awards. Let's
That's very
start
true.
it from there. How did that come to happen? What was it?
Thank you once again, and viewers. Like the moderator has just said, we spent some good time in student politics.
Yes.
We also spent time in the other academic part. The point was that we thought after leaving school, we should also provide the same leadership we did at university, maybe in a different field. So in 2021, there was a contest under the Ministry of Science, Innovation and Technology, Office of the President,
Yes.
and they called out many people, all age categories. So I applied under the agro-security category, and that's why I got the award. It was competitive through many sieves. I think we started around 120 people, and there were 6 winners in 6 different categories.
Each category with one winner. Okay.
So the award personally was because I was extracting cassava starch from cassava tubers for pharmaceutical grade purposes, like you mentioned at the beginning, and especially for making tablets and capsules.
Very, very important. One would want to first run a little bit on the concept. How did you arrive at that?
One, of course, our university training. I did pharmaceutical science, that was the course. And the training was that we were being trained to do more of research and development, especially in drug development. So it was always interesting to utilize natural resources. And one of them is the abundant cassava, to come up with something. And then at the height of COVID-19,
Yes.
the president was always making strong remarks about developing raw materials for industries locally, so that so that the cost of production can actually reduce. So he usually spoke about cassava starch from cassava.
Yes.
He also spoke about getting pharmaceutical grade sugar. So it was then I was, I think, touched to relate to the remarks made by the president so often, who is not who is not a scientist for that matter.
Yes.
And then the knowledge I had acquired in class. So my first attempt, of course, was to to relate what I'd done in Karas. To also look for the best place to host me, and then that was NARO, the National
Research Organization.
Yes, research organization. But there is another sort of division that deals in plants. It's in Gayaza, in Namuronge. So that's why I made my first start, and they gave me a strong hand. So that's how I began, basically.
So looking at extraction, you keep mentioning that. How is that possible?
One thing is that generally for Ugandans and most Africans, I think we view cassava as known as a food crop, but actually cassava is an industrial crop. There is a whole range of products that have been developed from cassava.
Yes.
So it's not rocket science to extract cassava from to extract starch from cassava. The only difference is to work on it, what is called modification, to make sure it fits your purpose. Because someone might want it, the starch you use, the starch you extract for capsules, is not, it must not be at the same level of, okay, let me say quality.
Yes.
As done for tablets. So there are different initiatives you do on after extracting or after obtaining the starch from the cassava tubers. But it's a well-known process within the circles of science. There is so much literature about extracting.
Yes.
I even think here in Uganda, many people have actually done they have done a lot of extraction.
You see, when I posted, most of them, the comments I received, most of them were asking whether the flour that they get out of cassava is the starch you're meaning. Is that close to the truth?
That's not close to the truth. One, for cassava flour and cassava starch.
Yes.
The other one is now for food purposes. The other one strictly is for industrial purposes. But for an ordinary person who has not advanced in studying the two products from cassava, is that by doing a simple iodine test in chemistry and biology, we stated that the moment starch is present, you do an iodine test, it would turn black. That's when starch is present. So if you are given starch and cassava flour and you do an iodine test, that would differentiate. Two is that the physical appearance of the two products.
Yes.
Starch is very purely white, has no scent, unlike the cassava flour. But also any attempt to put them trying to prepare karo. Yes, that's what people use cassava flour usually for. It would show so powerful differences. So the two are different for sure, and there must be no attempt to cook starch for food. It wouldn't give any. It has no nutrition. It has no nutrients.
Okay.
So that's for sure.
Okay. Wow. Well understood. Now, coming back to, of course, me and my community back in Chitagwenda, we are good at cassava farming, but also generally anyway, the whole nation or globally or whatever. One of the things, of course, you do this is really to solve, different challenges. And was there a need? Was there a problem you identified and you said, okay, now let's go for this. I think I can solve this challenge.
I'm going to speak on 2 points. One, a number of years ago, around from 2006, most major cassava growing communities in Uganda were faced with a disease outbreak, and the amount of cassava, the output, according to NAD's report, had fallen so much. So the World Bank injected in a lot of money, around $30 million USA, so that there could be more research in cassava and we produce stronger varieties. So as a result of such investments and other interventions from government, we now produce 5.5 metric tons of cassava tubers annually.
Thanks to NARO and
NARO, OWC, World Bank, and of course the Ministry of Agriculture. But what is anticipated is that actually this is going to grow far much, maybe at around 8 metric tons per year. But what we consume is almost 2.6 metric tons. So it means a lot of cassava is being wasted. To understand that cassava is being wasted, you just need to travel to Western Nile. And wastage is not because you are finding cassava on the street.
Yes.
It is because you might find a kilogram of fresh cassava tubers is costing 500 shillings. That's wastage for sure. Somebody growing cassava for about 8 months, and you say 10 cassava tubers, that's 1,000. That's wastage if we had a better discussion about it. Then the other one is that I've mentioned that starch is a product of cassava.
yes,
So if we have a lot of wastage, why don't we also convert the excess cassava, and we make starch for industries. We import our cassava starch for industrial purposes from China, from India, and I think these days also from Israel. Israel has a small population, but they're able to produce for us cassava starch. So why don't we get that excess we have here in Uganda and we convert it into cassava starch? So the point is that industries are struggling actually to meet their goals because the cost of production is very high. If I import cassava starch or any other pharmaceutical ingredients from China, the cost incurred on importing will also affect the final cost of the product.
yes,
You see, a challenge I think we stand a very bad position globally is that actually if you are shipping, for example, 20,000 tons of starch, the cost of the charges, the transportation charges, are usually so high. So the final product, yes, on top of buying, on top of a few taxes here and there. So the point is that the cost of production is high, the cost of the final product is high, so local people are not accessing the product. That's why we have challenges of a person in a family sharing one tablet of Panadol because they cannot access.
very, very common.
But paradoxically, these are the same people producing cassava. It's not selling, it's rotting in gardens or selling cheaper on the streets. So supposing now we converted that cassava into starch so that they get money from the cassava they plant, two, so that the cost of production in industries is lower and they are able to get medicines at a cheaper price. Three, it means the agricultural industrial chain now is so much empowered. And I think that's where many young people these days are falling into. So there are so many benefits of making such an investment. On top of taxes, on top of our capacity, I saw you last time speaking about the Congo roads. Now, we are not constructing, we shouldn't post it, just construct roads. If we have here a starch producing factory, for example, in Uganda,
yes,
it means the whole region is just a potential market. About 440 million people now, that's a strong market. In East Africa, as a region, there is no single starch producing industry. So one, we are also looking at market. Those are good prospects.
Wow. We are coming to the business side of that. Before that, let's first go back now, run back to the labs. Apparently, what's happening? What's the, do we have alternatives to this, or I don't know? When we go back to the industries, what's happening there?
So like I said, industries are importing from overseas. There is no single manufacturing at the country level.
They are importing
Starch.
Cassava starch itself.
Cassava starch or maize starch. So there are two strong sources of pharmaceutical grade starch.
Okay.
One is cassava another is maize.
Oh.
So, but I have strong interest in cassava for obvious reasons. If I can share them, it's okay. One is that it's less requiring in terms of technology to extract starch from cassava compared to maize. Two is that extraction from maize requires introduction of several organic substances. These are mainly some acids and such things. So my target was basically on cassava, which does not require, you can just improvise using ordinary means and have cassava extracted. But also you must be aware that our herbal medicine industry is so much growing, and people in herbal medicine rarely want to use organic products.
Yes.
So cassava starch would be more organic than maize starch, because maize starch you have to use these inorganic substances for extraction.
Oh. Wow, we are getting into chemistry, and whenever it gets to that, then I need a bottle of water. That's what we are going to do, certainly. Let's have this short one. When we come back, we're now going to focus on the business side, because this is the startup talk. How are you prepared to earn from this intervention?
The Lion Sports Academy, Western Uganda's leading soccer talent nurturing project that aims at helping children attain education scholarships through developing their soccer talents, as well as transitioning them to professional players. With our new football club, do you have or know any child that would need to grow their soccer talents? Reach us today.
Yes, thank you very much, you who is still watching us on IT TV. It is the Startup Talk. I am Sankara Berhanga, just like we do it every Tuesday, 5 p.m. We're supported by AIT. We are talking about Empower Youth in Technology, which is a tech hub here in Mbarara, and it brings together young people, supports them in 3 ways. Young people with startups, we need to emphasize that as long as you have a startup or you're planning to start one, then you're our friend. We support you in 3 ways. Number 1 is capacity building. That's through trainings and mentorship. Number 2 is through promotion. We promote you using this platform. That's why we are hosting Alex here. You too can actually be hosted on this. We also have a YIT radio online. You can also get us there. The third way we support you is linking you to affordable financing options. We have a savings scheme, a YIT Startups Financing Initiative, where you save your money and you're going to be sure that in case you get a contract or something you need to do with your startup, then you're going to borrow some money. Finance your money, your initiative, and then you could actually pay back at only 3%. But also you don't need collateral, you only need your friends around who are going to stand for you. Beyond that, of course, we could be able to link you to different funding opportunities that we may be able to get, but also positioning your startup to be able to grow your capacity in ability to attract financing. Now, today's episode is hosting a gentleman, just in case you joined us, Ndugu, I don't know why I called you Alex, yet you are Bantura.
Yes, Bantura Nuwamanya.
Bantura Nuwamanya. You must have picked that from me, because I remember challenging you not having they both, both Ankole names, so both African names, just like we have Chiza Besije, Yoweri Kaguta, those names. Those are the names of
the last time
Africa.
We attended the inaugural youth parliament. I recall you spoke with so much strength. You moved most people, and when you said Biarhanga Magezi Sankara.
Yes,
it was such moving.
Exactly. Let me. That's an opportunity to show them that video. You were at the parliament, I think. Did I tell you I was in parliament? This was the video.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. I am Sankara Biarhanga from Mbarara. Right Honorable Speaker, there is a sense in which I align with the guide that I belong to the government by the virtue of the sitting posture, and that is why I believe I should guide my government. there is a way we are not giving priority to the youth, priority to the most population of our nation. The youth, me inclusive, today are at the round table, being shared by the rich in country and outside country. Today, even in this building, there are graduates that have applied to a certain international organization that will take him or her to Arab areas for work. We are losing that quality to that country because the economic inclusion does not prioritize my age. Right, Honorable Speaker, even now in companies that are in the nation, there are those that are employing the little Sankaras, but they are registered as contractors. So they only pay tax once. Only to be polite, I would call that exploitation.
Yes, thank you very much. That was the times. I'm telling you here, I have a long time comrade around. But yes, that was important. So he's called Nuwamanya Bantura, and that's the direction you need to go to in case you have, you need to shift now. The names need to come back to African, and yes, we should be able to roll like that. Now, Alex, Bantura.
Yes, right.
We as we run this, as you put your efforts in this, one would think, of course, you have a dream and a vision. You have where you actually see this initiative grow. Let's share the dream.
One, for sure, is that the pharmaceutical industry in the country has been struggling for a number of years, and all discussions around have basically been on the cost of utilities, electricity and water especially, lack of infrastructure, lack of professional infrastructure in terms of human resource. But something has been less discussed: the inputs for the industry, and these are basically raw materials. So the industry, the pharmaceutical industry, is fed with so many raw materials, and I'm glad a number of young people outside here, I mean within many laboratories, are doing so much work to make sure that a number of raw materials come on market. So the dream is to transform the pharmaceutical industry in using the abundant natural resources, and cassava is one of them. So one for specialize, because the agriculture industrial chain is so big, you cannot be everywhere. So I've specialized in cassava, and cassava for industrial purposes in pharmaceutical settings. So there are other people who might be working on cassava, but for purposes of feeding the bakery industry. So we must appreciate their efforts. But for the dream, the idea is that we can transform the pharmaceutical industry in using these natural sources. And I think in one way or another, it can also inspire many young people outside there. So at the moment this is a success, it means we are putting up the spirits of so many young people in innovation. And I don't foresee failing. We have reached a step where there is strong evidence that we shall have a very powerful market, I mean a very powerful product, competitive, not only here, but globally.
So we're looking at setting up an industry, for example, I mean, an extraction plant somewhere, I don't know, is that part of what you explained?
The idea is to, like you mentioned, the idea is to set up an industry for manufacturing raw materials that feed into the industry.
Okay. Wow, very, very important. When we look at, it's about money. When we look at your business model, how are you prepared to actually earn from this? Are there different ways?
When the president mentioned about cassava,
yes,
there was a lot of sort of sabotaging voices from all over. But cassava is one of the most strategic crops. And I don't want to make any attempts to discuss cassava as an ordinary product. So the Uganda, the Pharmaceutical Manufacturers Association, the domestic one here in Uganda, in 2015 wrote to Parliament asking that all entities that produce drugs, those are licensed and supervised by the National Drug Authority, should be selling to government their medicines. And the national medical stores that is responsible for purchase and then distribution and of the medicines, I think had reservations. But the point I'm making is that the drug manufacturers want the government to purchase from them so that they are sure there is a strong market. But the same drug manufacturers are the ones importing starch from China and India. So my view was that to find a market internally for starch as a byproduct of cassava, we need to do a lot of other negotiations we used to do when we were student leaders. That actually government can be engaged, one, to support a local investor to manufacture such ingredients here. Then also government commits to purchase drugs from drug manufacturing companies, but also must compel them. There must be a condition that they should also purchase ingredients from here. So because the government shouldn't commit to purchase drugs from your company because you are an Indian investor or Chinese or European, then you again, after government commits and they give you money, which is Ugandan money for that matter, now you shouldn't also say you want to purchase the local ingredients from China or India. Purchase them from here so that money keeps within. So the point is that it's true, it can be negotiated in a way to find strong market for such internally. Let industries, pharmaceutical drug industries, sell their things to national medical stores to be assured of that market. Then also they must be forced, let me use that term, for purposes of getting market, they must be forced to purchase starch from around. Politics. So I think it makes economic sense for sure.
Okay. Well, thank you very much on that. Now, beyond actually making money, one has to look at. Of course, we now share the dream. We have where you think you're about to be getting money from. But there must be constraints already so far. You know, it's a big dream. Like you saw, like you said, anyway, it involves a little bit of politics again, and quite influential over there. Let's talk to the funder here that is watching. What's your need? What's your need like? I mean, what do you actually need, and how are you prepared actually to go about it?
That is very right. When you mention something about challenges or constraints to any innovator, I'm also a young person, there are usually many sources of constraints, but I'm going to mention three. One is from scientists also. When I was at NARO, some people were saying, even I think an official from the ministry once told me, but there are many prototypes of starch. Why don't you leave the others to move forward? But that's not true. When the USA invested money in manufacture of vaccines, they gave money, by the way, the Operation Warp Speed by Donald Trump. They gave so much money to different industrial players. But we have not had many vaccines. We had maybe from Pfizer, from Johnson & Johnson, but there are some which are not successful. So the moment you have many prototypes for starch or for any other product, it means there is always that success and failure. Some are not going to be successful. You cannot rely on one prototype. It's very dangerous for the country.
Just like we are still waiting for the rats?
Yes, that's another discussion. Okay. So, but one thing I'm mentioning is that scientists must open up themselves. At the moment there are many prototypes, it's good for the economy. If I fail, then the others can move forward. if Uganda, for example, we had 15 vaccine candidates for COVID, maybe 2 would have been successful. So it's a mistake in science and more so in economics. I think to rely on one source of a product. 2, I'm glad that it is providing leadership in helping young people access funding and capital. The cost of capital is one strong constraint. You are competing with a manufacturer, for example, in India. You might find they get a loan and the interest rate could be 1%. But at what percent does a young person get it here in Uganda? So when you are getting it at 15%, they are getting it at 1%. You see, you cannot compete globally at the end of the day. So the the cost of capital is one strong constraint. 3, the infrastructure is a strong constraint as well. We are importing a small machine for tablet hardness testing. It's one of the machines we need from Singapore. The cost of the freight charges from Singapore are tripling the cost of the machine. So for a young person trying to innovate and trying to get a machine from abroad, it's very much expensive, especially the freight charges. But that's a strategic disadvantage we stand given our position in globally. One final one I can mention.
Yes.
Is I'm writing an article on science diplomacy. There has been one success story in the diplomacy, but I think it has been from the military. That you can actually attach military people in the US, in China, in Russia. You must have heard of such. You are well read. You are aware of this. So my thought was also, supposing we also place young scientists in turn, because these things that are not manufactured here, we just build.
Sponsored and supported by the government for scientists.
That's for sure. There is a need for such.
Okay. Now let's go back now to your quest. If it was money, if it was whatever, what or how much would you need to get going?
Unfortunately, in the drug industry, of course, money is so much useful for investment reasons. But the biggest one is the product now at the prototype level. Quality of the product, if it qualifies, because the National Drug Authority would qualify it. So the moment it's qualified on its functionality, on its capacity to do its role, starch is usually used as a binder.
I think the most common one.
Most common one. So the moment it's qualified through enough data, scientific data, but also feasibility studies, it means the National Drug Authority should qualify it as a potential raw material, then you can attract investment. But in terms of money, the last time I tried to draw a quotation, to get a quotation from China, from one big machine, a big line production machine, I think it was costing 300 million Ugandan shillings. But the total cost could be around a few billions. I'm saying it's a few billions because the returns would be so much more. So the point of investment, people should not see billions as so much money. The returns would pay off for sure.
So did you say apparently the funding you would need is to achieve the prototype?
No, the funding for the prototype has actually been achieved. At least it's keeping us going. The Office of the President, the Ministry of Science and Technology, extended to us funds to do a prototype, to do improvements on the prototype we had. Because science is about to also acquiring new knowledge, doing this and this. So we hope by the end of the year we should be having a product with enough scientific data and a number of scale feasibility studies qualifying our starch as competent to be on market, and also to attract more investment for us to expand.
Okay. Well, if you are an investor, if you actually, well, we're talking about NG investors and all, whatever, you, by the way, is that room? I might call for someone and there is nothing like that room.
No,
if someone wants to come and invest in this.
No, the room is actually there. The room is actually there. They are actually, I think you are doing it best. Is that there are many products in a laboratory, many potential products in a laboratory. But actually, if investors, you see now we need a bridge. Scientists are rarely so much exposed to that knowledge of available opportunities for investment. I think we need somebody to be a catalyst now, and it should be able to provide such, so that the young people in science, especially in laboratories, can be aware of funding opportunities outside. And genuine funding, by the way, and not these quack funders who are coming to exploit young people in science.
Yeah, by the way, meanwhile, are you alone or you have a team?
I have a strong team.
Yes.
I've just only been a face of the team, but there's a strong team, and its composition is just young people, so much committed. When I speak of a team, I'm also speaking of a young guy in a local village who is supplying us CASSAVA tubers. So it's key you mention their contribution. But at a lab level, we have a strong team of people who are so much advanced in the understanding of the drug manufacturing, especially of ingredients. So we have a strong team, a powerful one. And they have a strong vision of making sure that we use natural resources to make sure we can transform the drug industry and then the economy.
Let's mention them. It's important.
I'm currently having Dr. Jimmy Angupare. Is offering strong technical guidance. He's so much studied in pharmaceutics. We have young people at the Gayaza who have been supplying us good variety tubers of NACE 14 and Narocas. Those are special cassava tubers, good for starch. I also have my boss, who is so much advanced in drug knowledge, who you have hosted here before.
Yes.
Professor Patrick Ogwang is my current boss, and is so much useful in offering technical guidance as well. So the team is big because this has been on for some much time.
Yes,
but also
very, very.
We also now it is also a team member by allowing us to air on TV.
Yes.
For young people to watch us, for potential investors. It's very great. This is forming a team, so you are now part of a team.
Okay. Yes, thank you very much. Now you have all the trust you had to gather. Some of you could have been watching, but this boy now. So when he mentions Dr. Ogwanga of the gentleman behind COVIDX, and you said the other doctor is
Angupare
Jimmy, and then he also again shows you resources are there. Then you have all reasons to trust this gentleman, and in case for any connection or whatever, then this is why we hosted him. Actually, that is important for you and for us all. Alex, let's have your final ones to them. Could you talk to young person like you, perhaps still pursuing their education at the university, or they just left? You know, it's a question of mindset. Your mind now is really focused on something else other than the popular betting and whatever.
Yes.
Whatever they demonize, you're in another perspective. Let's talk to them.
So the point is that I'm going to speak especially to young people.
Yes.
One, whatever you do is just about standards. It's about sacrifice. It's an investment. It takes time. You have to be a little patient. But try as best as possible to reach out to people who are for mentors. You have to look for mentors, especially in the area of science, so that they provide to you the guidance you need to make a breakthrough. Shortly, also, I'm going to speak about the pharmaceutical science department here at the university in Mbarara. I'm sure in the next 2 years or 3, it's going to revolutionize medicine in the country. There is a lot of young people doing great things. I'm going to invite the youth one of these days to check on what young people are doing. Young people are doing several products that are going to transform the economy. So the young people must understand that these things are investment. I started this in 2020, November. I got a mention last year in December. So it was just one whole year of trying, meeting people, doing this and this. So it takes time to reach such things.
It takes time to reach the things you actually have always dreamed about, and it takes a lot. So he says, but he also points out making sure you get mentors, and qualified mentors anyway, attach yourself to them, and you don't have actually to worry or whether it's today or tomorrow. He says it took him a year to be just recognized, just recognized, and that is always important message that we get from fellow young people and fellow strugglers, fellow hustlers, fellow thinkers, fellow innovators. That is the most important one. Why don't we end this at that? Next Tuesday you should be able to watch again. We are hosting another young gentleman from Bishop Stuart University that is using a lemon to make sure that you get organic kind of, aftershave. I'm telling you, these things are coming from Mbarara, and not, he did say it's not rocket science, it's by themselves around here. Thank you very much. The Startup Talk, Sankara Belhanga, 8 TV, empowering you.
You're watching 8 TV, empowering you.